The brochure had promised crystal waterfalls cascading over mountains of sapphire. Air so pure it tasted like liquid starlight, and wildlife that glowed in harmonious patterns at sunset. Alex held the holographic pamphlet between her fingers, the images dancing as she tilted it in the dim emergency lighting of the transport vessel. The brochure now seemed like a cruel joke. Anyone else feeling like they should have read the fine print? Alex asked, trying to inject some humor into the crushing silence that had enveloped the cabin for the past hour. No one laughed. 23 pairs of eyes stared back at her with various mixtures of fear, anger, and accusation. Fair enough. As the tour guide, she probably shouldn't be making jokes about their current predicament. The transport vessel hung suspended in what their instruments could only identify as nowhere. Outside the viewports, there was no starscape, no distant galaxies, not even the comforting blackness of normal space. Instead, a swirling, pulsating gray mist pressed against the hull, occasionally revealing glimpses of something, before closing back in on itself. Lana Jimenez, the vessel's physicist, hadn't stopped running calculations since the wormhole had spat them out here 3 hours ago. Her fingers flew over her console, eyes narrowed with concentration. This doesn't make sense, she muttered for the 20th time. The wormhole coordinates were perfect. We should be orbiting Andromeda's tear right now. Andromeda's tear, the destination promised in the brochure, a recently discovered exoplanet with Earth-like conditions and bioluminescent flora that created the waterfall effect advertised in that damned pamphlet. It was supposed to be the crown jewel of Cosmic Voyager's luxury tour packages. And this was the maiden voyage. Well, clearly we're not there, said Marcus Reinhardt, the company's CEO who had insisted on joining this inaugural journey. He adjusted his expensive suit jacket, a habit Alex had noticed he displayed whenever stressed. The question is, where are we and how do we get back? I'm trying to figure that out, Lana replied, not bothering to hide her irritation. But these readings, they don't correspond to any known section of space. It's like we're between... Between what? A passenger called out. Just between, Lana said, frowning at her screens. Dr. Timothy Walsh, the expedition's xenobiologist, had been unusually quiet. He stood by one of the viewports, studying the mist with an expression that Alex couldn't quite read. Not fear, exactly. Fascination, concern, a mixture of both. Dr. Walsh? Alex approached him, keeping her voice low. Any thoughts? He startled slightly, as if pulled from deep contemplation. Look closely, he said, pointing at the mist. There's a pattern. Alex squinted. At first, she saw nothing but the same gray swirls. But as she focused, she began to notice subtle movements, not random but rhythmic, almost like... It's breathing, she whispered. Dr. Walsh nodded. Or something analogous to breathing. I don't think this is just a spatial anomaly. I think it's alive. A chill ran down Alex's spine. You think the wormhole let us inside some kind of organism? Or perhaps a collective of organisms. Either way, I don't believe this was a navigation error. He turned to face her fully, his expression grave. I think we were brought here deliberately. Before Alex could respond, the ship lurched violently, sending both of them sprawling. Emergency klaxons blared as the artificial gravity fluctuated. Alex grabbed onto a handrail, her heart pounding as she watched several passengers float momentarily before crashing back to the deck when gravity reasserted itself. Status report, Marcus shouted over the alarms. The pilot's voice came over the comm, strained and urgent. Something's pulling us. The engines are at full reverse, but we're still moving forward. Forward toward what? Marcus demanded. I don't know. There's nothing on any sensors, but we're definitely being drawn deeper into this. Whatever it is. The mist outside had changed. It swirled faster now. And as Alex watched, it began to thin, revealing glimpses of what lay beyond. Not stars, not planets, but vast, impossible structures that seemed to shift and change, even as she tried to make sense of them. Geometries that shouldn't exist, colors that had no names in human language. Oh my God, someone whispered. Dr. Walsh was back at the viewport, his face illuminated by the alien light that now penetrated the mist. Remarkable, he breathed. We might be the first humans to witness a different reality entirely. That's not comforting, Doctor, Alex said, struggling to keep her voice steady. The ship lurched again, harder this time. Equipment crashed to the floor. A passenger screamed as a locker door tore free and narrowly missed her head. All personnel, brace for impact, the pilot's voice ordered. Impact with what? Alex thought wildly as she scrambled to secure herself in the nearest crash seat. Through the viewport, she could see only swirling chaos, a kaleidoscope of impossible images. Then everything went black. Alex awoke to the taste of copper in her mouth and the sound of someone sobbing quietly nearby. Her head throbbed, and when she touched her temple, her fingers came away sticky with blood. Not too much, thankfully. Just a small cut. The emergency lighting had activated, bathing the cabin in an eerie red glow. She unstrapped herself from the crash seat and stood cautiously, testing her limbs. Nothing seemed broken. Is everyone all right? She called out, slipping automatically into her tour guide role. Sound off if you're injured. A chorus of groans and affirmations followed. A few passengers reported minor injuries, bruises, cuts, one possibly broken wrist, but nothing life-threatening. Small mercies. What happened? Asked an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. We appear to have stopped moving, Lana said, checking her instruments. But I can't determine our location. It's like we're nowhere, or everywhere. The sensors are giving completely contradictory readings. The engines are offline, the pilot reported, emerging from the cockpit with a grim expression. We have emergency power, life support, and not much else. Marcus pushed through the group, his perfect hair now disheveled, a small cut marring his usually immaculate jawline. This is unacceptable. We need to establish contact with headquarters immediately. Communications are down, the pilot replied flatly. We're on our own. I need to see what's outside, Dr. Walsh said, already moving toward the airlock. Alex caught his arm. Are you insane? We have no idea what's out there. Precisely why I need to see it, he replied, gently but firmly removing her hand. We're scientists, Alex, explorers. This may be the greatest discovery in human history. Or it could kill us all, she countered. We may already be dead if life support fails. He pointed out pragmatically. I'll take proper precautions. Before anyone could stop him, Dr. Walsh had retrieved an environmental suit from the storage compartment and begun suiting up. Alex watched with growing alarm as he meticulously checked each seal. I'm coming with you, she decided suddenly. Alex, no, Lana protested. We need you here to manage the passengers. Dr. Walsh shouldn't go alone, and I'm trained for EVA. This was true. though Alex had only done the required simulations, never an actual spacewalk. Still, someone had to make sure the doctor didn't do anything reckless. "Lana, you and the pilot can handle things here for 30 minutes. Marcus looked like he wanted to object, but instead just waved his hand dismissively. "Be quick about it. And for God's sake, be careful. If this turns out to be a profitable discovery, we need to be alive to claim it." Always the businessman, Alex thought as she suited up alongside Dr. Walsh. Her hands trembled slightly as she sealed her helmet, the recycled air tasting metallic and stale. "Ready?" Dr. Walsh asked, his voice now coming through her helmet comm. "As I'll ever be," she replied. The airlock cycle seemed to take forever. Alex's heart pounded in her ears as the outer door finally slid open, revealing nothing she could comprehend. They stood on what appeared to be solid ground, though it had the consistency and slight give of flesh. It pulsed gently beneath their boots, a subtle rhythm like a giant's heartbeat. Above them stretched a sky, if it could be called that, of constantly shifting patterns, whirls of energy and colors that hurt Alex's eyes to look at directly. The transport vessel sat half embedded in the fleshy ground, as if it had been partially absorbed. There was no sign of damage, but tendrils of the strange material had begun to creep over the hull. "Fascinating," Dr. Walsh said, already taking samples with a collection tool from his suit. "It appears organic, but unlike any cellular structure I've ever seen." Alex took a tentative step forward. Testing the strange surface, it held her weight easily. "Doctor, look." She pointed to where the ground rose into what might have been hills in the distance. Structures dotted the landscape, not buildings as humans would understand them, but vast, complex formations that seemed to grow directly from the ground. "I believe those are cities," Dr. Walsh said, his voice filled with wonder. "Or their equivalent. Are there people here? Inhabitants?" As if in answer, the ground beneath them shuddered, not violently, but with purpose, like a muscle contracting. In the distance, one of the cities began to change shape, extending a portion of itself upward. "We should go back," Alex said, suddenly certain they were being watched. "Just a few more samples." Dr. Walsh insisted, kneeling to collect another piece of the strange surface. That's when Alex saw them. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of translucent shapes moving toward them from the direction of the nearest structure. They flowed rather than walked, their bodies seeming to shift between solid and gaseous states with each movement. "Doctor!" Alex hissed, grabbing his arm. "We have company." He looked up, his expression changing from annoyance to awe as he spotted the approaching entities. "Incredible," he breathed. "True xenomorphs. Their physiological structure must be entirely—" "We need to go," Alex interrupted, pulling him up. "Now." The entities moved faster than she'd anticipated. By the time they turned back toward the ship, the creatures had halved the distance between them. Alex could now see that they varied in size and complexity, some barely larger than her hand, others towering to twice her height. "They may be peaceful," Dr. Walsh protested, even as he allowed himself to be dragged along. "Let's discuss that possibility from inside the ship," Alex replied. They had almost reached the airlock when the ground beneath them heaved suddenly, sending them stumbling. Alex fell hard, the impact jarring through her suit. As she scrambled to her feet, she saw with horror that the ship was sinking deeper into the fleshy surface, the airlock now a meter higher than when they'd exited. "Jump!" she commanded, leaping for the airlock ledge. Her gloved hands caught the edge, and she pulled herself up with strength born of desperation. Turning, she reached down for Dr. Walsh. He stood frozen, staring at the approaching entities, the closest of which was now only meters away. It had extended a tendril toward him, a shimmering appendage that seemed to be made of liquid light. "Timothy!" Alex shouted, using his first name to break through his scientific fascination. "Take my hand now." The urgency in her voice seemed to snap him out of his trance. He tore his gaze away from the creature and jumped. Catching Alex's outstretched hand, she pulled with all her might, leveraging her body against the airlock frame as the entity's tendril brushed against Dr. Walsh's boot. The moment it made contact, Dr. Walsh convulsed, his body going rigid. Alex felt a shock travel up her arm from his hand, not painful, but intensely disorienting, as if her consciousness had momentarily expanded beyond her body. With a final surge of effort, she hauled him into the airlock, slapping the emergency close button. The outer door slid shut just as more tendrils reached the ship, their liquid light splashing against the reinforced viewport. Dr. Walsh lay on the airlock floor, his eyes wide open but unseeing, his body completely still except for the rapid rise and fall of his chest. "Dr. Walsh! Timothy!" Alex knelt beside him, checking his suit for breaches. It was intact, but he showed no response to her voice. "Hang on, we're going inside." The inner airlock cycle seemed to take an eternity. The moment the pressure equalized, Alex ripped off her helmet and shouted for help. "Medical emergency! The doctor needs help!" Crew members rushed forward as she dragged Dr. Walsh's unresponsive form into the main cabin. They removed his helmet, checked his vitals, administered emergency first aid. But his condition remained unchanged, physically stable but mentally absent. "What happened out there?" Marcus demanded, hovering over them. "There are beings out there," Alex explained, her voice shaking slightly. "One of them touched him, and he just collapsed." "Did they attack you?" Lana asked, her face pale. "I don't think so. It seemed more like communication, but too much for a human brain to process." Alex looked down at Dr. Walsh's blank expression. It's like his consciousness is somewhere else. "We need to leave. Now." Marcus turned to the pilot. "Get those engines back online." "Sir, I've been trying. There's nothing mechanically wrong with them. They just won't respond." "Then try harder," Marcus snapped. A soft sound from Dr. Walsh drew everyone's attention. His lips were moving, forming words without sound. Alex leaned closer, straining to hear. They're curious," he whispered finally, his voice faint and distant. "We're the first travelers to come through willingly." "Dr. Walsh?" Alex took his hand. "Can you hear me?" His eyes remained unfocused, staring at something beyond the physical realm. "So many before, lost, trapped between. But we came through intact." "Through what?" Alex pressed gently. "The wormhole?" "Not a wormhole," he said, his voice suddenly stronger. "A threshold, a boundary between realities." Lana moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "Are you saying the wormhole technology doesn't work the way we thought? That instead of creating a shortcut through space-time, it's actually punching through to, what, another universe?" Dr. Walsh's eyes finally focused, looking directly at Alex with an intensity that made her shiver. "They want to know why we came, what we seek. Tell them it was a mistake." Marcus interjected, "Tell them to let us go." They don't understand the concept of mistake. Dr. Walsh replied, "Everything here happens with purpose. They believe we were drawn here for a reason." His gaze shifted to the viewport, where the strange entities had gathered, their translucent forms pulsating with internal light. "They want to understand us, and they want us to understand them." "How?" Alex asked. "We can barely comprehend what we're seeing." A slow smile spread across Dr. Walsh's face, eerie in its serenity. "They're offering to show us." A collective shudder ran through the group. Even Marcus, normally so confident and commanding, took an involuntary step back. "That's not an option," Alex said firmly. "Look what a momentary contact did to you. Prolonged exposure could kill us, or worse. You don't understand." Dr. Walsh sat up, his movements jerky as if he were relearning how to control his own body. "They're not hostile. They're ancient. They've existed here, in this interstitial space, for eons. Our wormhole technology has been disturbing their realm for years, creating ripples in their reality. They simply want to understand what we are." "And what are they offering in return?" Lana asked. "Knowledge, understanding of the universe, universes, beyond anything humans have ever conceived." His eyes gleamed with an almost feverish light. "They can show us how to navigate the threshold safely, how to travel not just through space, but between realities." Marcus's expression changed, the businessman in him recognizing potential profit. That would revolutionize interstellar travel. The patents alone would be worth. "That's not the point." Dr. Walsh interrupted sharply. "This isn't about money. It's about expanding human understanding beyond our limited perceptions. It's about survival first." Alex countered. "These beings may not intend harm, but that doesn't mean contact is safe for us. You're still not fully yourself." "Doctor, I'm more myself than I've ever been," he insisted. "They've shown me just a fraction of what they know. And it's beautiful. Alex, reality isn't what we think it is. It's so much more complex, more interconnected." The ship shuddered suddenly, the floor vibrating beneath their feet. Outside the viewports, the mist began to swirl more rapidly, punctuated by flashes of that strange, nameless color. "What's happening?" a passenger cried out in alarm. "They're offering a choice," Dr. Walsh said, rising to his feet. He swayed slightly but remained standing. "We can leave now, return to our reality, or we can stay and learn." "Leave," Marcus said immediately. "We need to report this. Prepare a proper expedition." "I agree," Lana added. "We're not equipped for first contact, especially with beings so fundamentally different from us." Dr. Walsh looked disappointed but not surprised. "Alex, what do you think?" She hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. Part of her desperately wanted to understand what Dr. Walsh had experienced, to see beyond the limitations of human perception. But the responsible part of her, the part that had 23 lives in her care, knew there was only one right answer. "We go home," she said finally. "We go home, and we carefully consider what we've learned here before we make any decisions about returning." Dr. Walsh studied her face for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll tell them." He approached the viewport, placing his hand against the transparent material. The entities outside seemed to respond, gathering closer, their tendrils brushing against the exterior of the ship. The strange vibration intensified, not violent but insistent, like the purring of an enormous cat. After a moment, Dr. Walsh turned back to the group. "They understand. They'll help us return, but they want something in exchange. What could we possibly offer them? Marcus asked. Stories. Dr. Walsh replied simply. They want to know about our world, our experiences. They're offering to create a channel, I suppose you could call it. A way for us to share information without the physical contact that overwhelmed me. Is it safe? Alex asked. Safer than staying here, he answered honestly. But it will require all of us to participate. They need to understand multiple perspectives to form an accurate picture of humanity. Murmurs of uncertainty rippled through the passengers. Alex couldn't blame them. The idea of opening their minds to these alien entities was terrifying. But if it was their only way home... How do we do this? She asked. They'll initiate the connection. All we need to do is... He searched for the right words. Think openly. Don't try to hide or shield your thoughts. But don't force anything either. Just allow your natural thoughts and memories to surface. That's all? Marcus looked skeptical. That's all, Dr. Walsh confirmed. They'll do the rest. Alex took a deep breath, then addressed the group. I know this is frightening, but if Dr. Walsh is right, it's our best chance of getting home. I'll go first, and if anything seems dangerous, we'll stop immediately. She stepped forward before anyone could object, joining Dr. Walsh at the viewport. The entities outside seemed to respond to her approach, several of them pressing closer to the glass. Just relax, Dr. Walsh murmured. Open your mind. Alex closed her eyes, trying to clear her thoughts. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, gradually, she became aware of a presence, not invasive, but gently inquisitive, like a child peering curiously through a window. It didn't force its way into her mind, but rather waited at the threshold of her consciousness, seeking permission to enter. Hesitantly, she lowered her mental defenses, allowing the presence in. Images began to flow through her mind, memories of Earth, her childhood home, the first time she'd seen the stars from orbit, her training as a tour guide, her dreams of exploration. In return, she received not words, not images exactly, but impressions, a sense of vast age and patience, curiosity without judgment, a different way of experiencing reality, where time and space were not linear but interconnected in ways her human mind could barely grasp. It was overwhelming, but not painful. Strange, but not frightening. When she finally opened her eyes, she found that tears were streaming down her face, though she couldn't have explained why. Alex? Lana was watching her with concern. Are you all right? Yes, she whispered. Yes, I think I am. They're... She struggled to find words adequate to describe the experience. They're not what we thought. They're not dangerous, just different, very different. One by one, the others came forward. Some approached with fear, others with curiosity or skepticism. Each emerged from the experience changed in subtle ways, more thoughtful, more quiet, eyes reflecting a glimpse of something beyond human understanding. Marcus was the last. He stood before the viewport for a long time, his normally confident posture gradually softening. When he finally stepped back, his expression was unreadable. We'll be able to return now, he said quietly. The engines should work. The pilot hurried to check, returning moments later with confirmation. Powers restored. All systems functional. Then let's go home, Alex said, as the engines hummed to life. The entities outside the ship began to move in perfect synchronization, forming a spiraling pattern that widened into what appeared to be a tunnel through the mist. At its far end, barely visible, was a familiar pinprick of black space dotted with stars. "They're showing us the way," Dr. Walsh explained unnecessarily. The ship lifted easily from the fleshy surface, the tendrils that had begun to envelop it withdrawing without resistance. As they approached the tunnel, Alex felt a gentle pressure in her mind, not communication exactly, but a sensation she somehow understood as farewell. "Will we be able to find this place again?" she asked Dr. Walsh. "I don't think we'll need to," he replied cryptically. "They'll find us when the time is right." The journey back was smooth, almost anticlimactic after their strange encounter. Within hours, they emerged from the wormhole into familiar space. The sparkling blue-green sphere of Andromeda's tear hanging before them exactly as the brochure had promised. "We're back on course," the pilot announced, sounding surprised. It's as if nothing happened. But they all knew that wasn't true. Something fundamental had changed, not just in their understanding of wormhole technology or the nature of the universe, but in themselves. Later, as the passengers disembarked to explore the crystal waterfalls and bioluminescent forests of Andromeda's tear, Alex found herself standing alone at a viewport, staring out at the stars. They looked different to her now. Not just distant points of light, but portals, each potentially leading to realities beyond human comprehension. "Penny for your thoughts," Lana said, joining her. Alex smiled. "Just wondering what we're supposed to do with the knowledge we've gained. Do we tell people? Would anyone believe us? Marcus wants to keep it quiet until he can figure out how to profit from it," Lana said with a hint of disapproval. "He's already talking about exclusive rights to interdimensional travel." "And Dr. Walsh? Busy writing what he claims will revolutionize our understanding of physics, biology, and consciousness itself." Lana sighed. "Whether anyone will understand it is another question entirely." "And you, what will you do?" Lana considered the question for a moment. "Try to make sense of the data we collected. Try to understand what really happened to us." "What about you?" Alex turned back to the viewport, watching as the first hints of sunset began to transform the landscape below. The famous bioluminescent plants beginning their nightly display. It was beautiful, just as the brochure had promised, and yet somehow less wondrous than what they had experienced in that in-between place. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "But I don't think I can go back to being just a tour guide now. Not after seeing what's really out there." "None of us can go back," Lana agreed softly. "Whatever those beings showed us, whatever connection they formed with our minds, it changed something fundamental," as if to emphasize her point. The lights in the observation deck flickered briefly, just for an instant. Alex thought she saw a reflection in the viewport, not of herself or Lana, but of a translucent, shimmering form that seemed to be made of liquid light. When she blinked, it was gone, leaving her to wonder if it had been real or just a product of her altered perception. Either way, she knew with certainty that their encounter with the beings from the in-between place wasn't over. It had, in fact, only just begun. "Do you think they're watching us?" she asked Lana. "I think they've always been watching," Lana replied. "We just didn't know how to see them before." Below them, Andromeda's tear continued its slow rotation, oblivious to the travelers who had returned from a journey far stranger than any tourist brochure could have advertised. The crystal waterfalls caught the light of the setting sun, fracturing it into rainbows that danced across the sapphire mountains. It was exactly as promised. And yet nothing would ever be quite as promised again. Not for Alex. Not for any of them. They had glimpsed beyond the veil of ordinary reality. And that glimpse had left an indelible mark. The brochure had promised wonders, but it had delivered something far more profound. The knowledge that the universe was vaster, stranger, and more wondrous than humanity had ever dreamed. And that knowledge, once gained, could never be unlearned. As night fell on Andromeda's tier, the stars came out one by one, each a potential doorway to realities waiting to be discovered. Alex found herself smiling at the thought. Whatever came next, whatever strange paths her life might take after this experience, one thing was certain. She would never look at a travel brochure the same way again.